Hi, in this episode, I'll be discussing rediscovering self, navigating personal identity amidst chaos and redemption. What does that look like? How do you even start to find out about who you are again? Well, to begin with, when I first got my son into a rehab, um, actually, the only thing I could think about was like, wow, I could breathe now. Like I know where he is and he's safe. So to me, I didn't even think about myself in the respect of like, oh, what do I want to do now? Oh, I'm going to learn how to cook. No, that's the last thing on your mind. The first thing on your mind is, okay, he's in a safe place. And for at least 30 days, you know that you don't have to feel like you have to save him or look after him or her at this moment. So at that point, that's not really when you're rediscovering yourself. Okay. Even through the second time, the second rehab, I wasn't rediscovering myself. I was basically getting through the fact that, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this again. And another 60 days this time with knowing where he was at. And then still afterwards feeling like, okay, well, what's next? Still trying to control it, still trying to figure out where it's going to go from here and how he's going to get well and what the next steps would be for him. And then the third time came and it was the same thing again. I wasn't rediscovering myself at that point. And mind you, this was like, I don't know, 8, 9 years in. I mean, you don't really rediscover yourself until you get to that place where you have had enough. What that takes, everybody has a different threshold. My threshold was when he hit below the belt. 2.5 years ago, when he called and left horrific messages, pointing things at me, texting his father and his brother, lashing out to a point where it was so nasty and bad that I had enough. And that was 12 years in. Okay. So I don't know where you're at in your place of this journey, but this is just really to discuss when you get to that place of rediscovering, where do you start? How I can't tell you how you're going to get there because I don't know where you're at in your journey. But the quicker you get there, the better off you'll all be. But it's so hard for anyone to say that to you because at the end of the day, it's not giving up on your kid when you start focusing on yourself. And I believe as a parent, and I think maybe myself as well, I felt that way. Like, I don't have time for me. What do you mean me? I've got to think all the time. Oh my God, how am I going to take care of him? Where's he going to be next? Who's going to look after him? What's his next step? What is he going to do with his life? Those were things that were on my mind, and that was my hobby at the time. Until, like I said, it hits you, and you don't know when it's going to happen in your life, and you start realizing like, ooh, okay, now you feel really bad and really alone because you've taken so much of your energy and yourself and put it in that direction of your son and healing him and getting him well, that you didn't think about yourself for so long. Now you're going to have to start over again. And where you start over again is even basically writing down, thinking about what do you like? I mean, I had troubles with that because I was working full time, like 90 hours a week. I had my kids on my mind with how I was going to pay for their tuitions and their colleges and their apartments and their cars. I didn't have time to have any hobbies, okay, or think about it, and even think about what I like to do. But I can tell you that when the time came and I was able to start rediscovering myself, I found that I just did one step at a time. And what is that? Try playing cards. Try learning a skill. If you like cooking and you've always wanted to learn more about how to cook, great. Even if you go on YouTube and start there. Take a class somewhere. Get out of the house. Don't go with anyone you know. You need to start getting out and feeling comfortable with yourself again. See, I used to go to parties. I remember my friends saying to me, why are you always like the first one to leave? Why are you in a hurry? Where are you going? Why are you in such a rush? You just got here. Like, why do you say to me at the beginning, oh, I can only stay an hour? Well, you know what? I don't know how comfortable I felt anywhere, actually, when I was going through this. But when I was rediscovering myself, I found myself pushing myself to stay longer, to feel more comfortable, to get used to it, and not having that as my story anymore, as in my son or the addict. It was more about how do I find my story. So whatever that's going to be, the first step is, it doesn't even matter if it's you haven't even thought about it. Take a painting class. Go to Michael's. Get an art project. Start doing art. I know it sounds weird, but like I found this class. It was only like a one-time class about drawing, and I've never been good at drawing. And then I went to this class, and I'm like, wow, this is so therapeutic. And I thought I was much worse than I guess I was. And what she really did is she was analyzing the way we all drew and painted what we sketched out. And I thought that was so cool. And she could tell all about what type of person we are and our personalities. And those are the kind of things that could be really cool. Even yoga. I don't really have patience for yoga. I really probably should do it more. But like, I would take a yoga class once a week with this girl I barely knew who convinced me to go to this class that was out of the way. But you know what? It got me out of my comfort zone, and it was kind of cool. And it gave me something to do and took my mind off of what I didn't have before. Because you see, when you get to this rediscovering place, you are rediscovering yourself. I mean, all along the journey, you can say, oh, I've implemented this, I'm doing that, doing this for myself, I'm doing that for myself. But you're really rediscovering yourself when you have taken that addict off your plate. Not that you've let them down, not that you're not caring about them, not that you don't love them unconditionally, but that you're finally putting yourself in front and saying, I'm important too. So even if you work, right? And maybe you're just not in the mood to go out and have a drink with your coworkers or take a class somewhere. Go to a group, even if it is a support group. Maybe you like support groups. Maybe that's something you need. Maybe that's something you haven't done before. Go out there and do it. So I know it's so hard to say, oh, get out of your comfort zone. I agree. It really is hard. So that's why the first step is really go on YouTube. It's awesome. And just think about something that you could do as a side job, as a side hustle that you might like, something crafty, and just start there. It doesn't have to take money to do it, okay? It's just something you can think about other than your addict, and it takes up time. Now, you might be fulfilled in leading a group somewhere. I don't know, go to your local library, maybe start a new support group. Those are things you could do too. Just because you're rediscovering yourself doesn't mean you can't stay in the same dialogue as you have for so long. It's just kind of being open to doing things that you hadn't done before. Now, one of the things that I also would suggest is when you get to that place, be open with yourself about your living environment, okay? Because you've spent a lot of time in the same place, and you have a lot of the same memories. You've got the memories of locking your door at night. You have the memories of the fighting. You have the memories of the destruction, the sadness. You have a lot that took place in your house, in your community, the memories, the good and the bad. But unfortunately, as parents with kids with addicts, we've been going through this for so many times and years that it kind of affects us because we try to hold on to the meaningful moments, the lifetime changes, the monumental times in our lives that we all share, and the graduations and the birthday parties. All those things sound great, but at the same time, those were a long time ago. So it's hard because as the years go by, you're going to realize you're slowly forgetting those times, and all you're kind of remembering is the times that they acted completely different, be it on drugs, be it on alcohol, leading into their mental illness, their psychosis. And so for me, I always knew that I wanted to move once my kids went to college. It was hard because financially, how was I going to do it? Where am I going to get a job? I'm going to start all over. And I loved where I lived. I loved being where I was. But at the same time, I felt stuck. And it's common because you're stuck in this feeling of loss because they're not there anymore in any way. But even if you're in denial, you still know subconsciously that they're not there and they're not going to be there for a very long time. So I was able to pick myself up and I did it. I went and I moved to a different area. Now, it was hard. It was not easy. You build your life for yourself, you raise your kids somewhere, and there is a bond there. There's a bond with people in those communities where you sent your kids to school, and it grows over years, so you feel even more comfortable and part of the community. But on the other hand, for your mental health, sometimes it's time to leave. It's time to change and maybe change your luck. Maybe change your kids' luck. Maybe it's better for everyone around in the family, the siblings, your husband, whatever it's going to be and who it's going to be with, and whatever your goals are. Maybe it is to move closer to family. Maybe all these years you've been living very far away and you're getting older and you're feeling like maybe this is the time to do it. And you don't have to make the excuse, oh, the memories and they're not so great. You don't owe that to anyone. And the truth is, I had a lot of nice memories in my house. I remember all the times I had in my house, but I also remember the times that weren't so great. And to me, I felt that I always had this in me that I wanted to. Now, what you could do is, another thing you could do is, maybe you wanted to renovate a room all these years, or change the room that your son was in, or your daughter, or your addict was in, and you want to make it into a den, or you want to change something about it. Maybe you want to change the painting in the house, make it brighter, feel more comfortable, make it feel new and fresh. Maybe that's what you need, a pick-me-up, just by redecorating, and that doesn't have to cost a lot, okay? You could do it. There are many ways to do it, that it just makes the room, the appearance look different, and it makes you feel fresh. So rediscovering yourself is a combination of things, but it just depends on what you're willing to do or not do. It's funny because when people downsize, right, when they get older, it's very hard for them because they're taking everything in their house that they had and accumulated for 20 years, 30 years, the days when people really stayed in their house for a very long time, or even 40 years. And they've got to go through all those memories. And it's like, as they part, right, they're letting go. They're letting go of the memories of the graduations, of the parties they had at the home, of what happened on that couch, what happened at that table, the good and the bad. And it's very hard for people to pull themselves and make that change and start over. It could be so invigorating and exciting, but at the same time, it could be sad for people. That's the last thing you want to do. That is it. If you feel good at a community and you're connected in so many ways and have a lot of support, then you need to stay. Maybe you need to just change your house. Maybe it's time to just make that kind of change. Go from east to west of town, whatever it's going to be. Or stay in the house, like I said, and where you're living, and just make some internal changes. Whatever it is, that's important, because I believe it gives you this fresh feeling, this fresh start. Because at this point, you're kind of down about everything. You're down, it's brought you down, and it's kind of like hard to see the glass half full. And it's common, and you ain't alone. Everybody's experiencing it. But for me personally, I moved and I didn't even bring a pillow. And my son said to me, because he had to move at the same time with me, he's like, seriously? You're not even anything? You're just walking out? When I sold the house, I sold it with everything. And I started over. Now, in some ways, that was great. And in other ways, it was sad, because I really did lose that connection. But I also moved somewhere where there's a lot of family and extended family. So I had a lot more of that type of security. And that helped, as well as having one of my sons with me. It definitely made the transition better, different. And I wouldn't have changed anything I did or how I did it. Because you see, when you look at your life, you can't look back. You have to look forward. And it's so hard because as you get older, you notice the paths you would have taken differently, the mistakes you think you made, you might have, might not have, how you would have done things differently. But I could sit here all day doing and feeling the same way. But I stopped myself because I learned a long time ago when I saw my parents and their feelings when they were older and on their deathbeds, how they looked at their life. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to sit in 30 years doing the same thing and say, oh my God, I'm miserable. Why did I spend my whole life like that? Look at the mistakes I made. You know, if you don't try something, you'll never know. And I looked at it like this. Okay, so I move. If it doesn't work out, I'll move again. There's nothing to lose anywhere. It's like, I also felt like I didn't even know how I liked my eggs scrambled. I didn't really know what movie I liked. I didn't even know what my favorite colors were. I kind of changed everything and looked into everything and fell in love again with the things that I like. And that is what the cool thing is. And when you do that, you can get ready to give of yourself to someone else, your partner, your kids. It takes time. It takes time to be able to bring the family together again. But everyone has to rediscover themselves because their mission is not to save someone anymore. It's not your job to do that. Your job is to be there, to support, encourage, but you are not anyone's teacher. You are not anyone's savior. It's not your job. And you can't do it anyway. So that's the bottom line. Because if I could, heck, I don't care what anyone would have said, I would have done it. I really would have done it. And I don't feel the same way now as I did then. Things have definitely changed for me in the past 2.5 years. I'm not that person anymore. Now, I was that person for a very long time. And that's okay if you spend 20 years being that person. You can't help it. It's just who you are. We're all there. And listen, I'm not saying, heck, if my son comes back again into my life, I don't know what it's going to be like. But I can say this. I'm strong enough to know that I will never let anyone ever manipulate me or get me to the place where my son got me. And I will never allow that again. And I feel like that's what keeps me strong. And, also, like when you rediscover yourself, it could be, hey, you want to focus on your body. You want to focus on working out again. Maybe you didn't take the time to do it. Or maybe you've been swimming all these years and you've never really done weights or gone to the gym. Do different things. I promise you, It will make you feel so much more invigorated, like as if you've achieved more. And it's just so much more fulfilling. And like, for me, it partially was rediscovering religion. Part of it was finding out what I like to do because I didn't feel like I had any hobbies. Now I'm a crafter. Oh my gosh, I love the Cricut machine. I love purple and pinks. I just love those colors. I'm extremely attracted to them. I love my eggs over easy. I eat healthy pretty much, but I love still snacking. And I actually change that from time to time. I worked out, but for a long time I used to swim. I would go to the gym, but I never used weights. And that's something else that I had incorporated some time ago. And I constantly, and spinning, and then I switch back and forth. I haven't spun in a long time. No desire to do that again. But I have definitely noticed my workouts, and through the seasons, through the years, I'm constantly changing things. And even when I pray in the morning, even if you add one thing to your daily routine, like I constantly change that up because it gets boring after a while. And then it's like it doesn't mean anything anymore. And most of all, I'm going to leave you with this. I learned how to smell the roses. And I know that sounds so cliche, like, okay, she's smelling the roses. I've heard this before. Stay slow, be slow, be cognizant, be alert, see what's going on. Don't let life go by so fast. It's easy for everyone to say. But I truly look around and I'm much slower now. I'm not in a race. Life's not a race anymore for me. I don't feel like I'm in this marathon. And I surely don't feel like I'm in a marathon watching everybody living except for myself. That is not where I am anymore. I was there at one time, and maybe that's where you are. But I'm not living like that anymore, ever again. I'm definitely living, which is awesome. Now, I'm not saying everything's perfect in life. Heck, it's not. And I'm not saying I wouldn't like to be more successful in certain ways. And I've had to learn how to be with a companion again. And all these things take time. And to reinvent your relationships with your other kids, that takes time too. And what about your family and friends? The ones that they want to be there for you, but you didn't let them in. Or maybe you did, but you didn't really share what was really going on with you and how you were feeling. And you know what? Maybe that was okay. Because they're not your therapist. Neither are your kids, and neither is your husband or your spouse or your companion. That belongs to you. And you need to find the inner strength, the groups, the classes, the education for yourself. Everyone has to do that separately. Because I believe when you could do that, then you're bringing the best to your family and the people you're with. Now, some people learn along the way. They learn from their spouses. They learn from their significant others. They learn from their kids. But, you still have to remember, no one can do anything for you. You've got to do this for yourself. And you're capable. Heck, you were able to give birth. You're able to do this. So at the end of the day, I hope this podcast has helped you think more about how you can rediscover yourself. Maybe you don't need to right now. But if you do, try some of the things I said, and maybe they'll help. Because no book and no outline can help you do what you need to do. Because it's only you. So good luck, keep journaling, and I look forward to you hearing my next podcast.